Shen Thomas here, and for another Tea with Shen. Thanks for joining me. Anyway, this one's episode 9, and so in episode 8 I talked a little bit about what we call the microcosmic orbit, and little Kermie wants to come see me, huh? And that's where, you know, you're getting in the correct posture in your meditation, and you're getting the breathing down and the relaxation, right? You're starting to feel the sensation of chi. And as you're breathing in, you're pulling that energy into the body, into a certain point that you're focusing on. And then you are, well, as you breathe out, you're contracting that or compressing that and spinning it and building the chi, right? And then you find, well, you can do that in certain points and concentrate in certain points in the body that kind of align with either, you know, meridians or you know, pressure points, chakras, whatever you want to call them. And then you start moving the chi. So you'll breathe in, you'll build it, compress it, you'll start moving it, right? And then you start moving it in a circuit, the microcosmic orbit, which basically starts at the dantian and it runs down to the base of the spine, from the front of the abdomen, right, your belly button area. You take it down to the base of the spine, and then you pull it upward, you know. And so in a way you kind of almost contract the muscles in the bottom of your pelvis or your perineum as you breathe in, and then you're able to pull the chi up from the base of the spine. It's almost like pumping it, pulling it up, and then you're able to shoot it up the back. The governing vessel is what that's called in Chinese medicine, but it's basically a pathway, a route for chi to flow that's outside of your spine, right? That's on your back, and then that runs all the way back up to the top of the head, you know, and where some people, they kind of, I think it's called the Baihui or Baihui in Chinese medicine, but it's the top of the crown chakra, right? And then you're pulling in more energy from, you know, spirit or for realms, you know, from the air, you know, into the crown chakra, and then building that and flowing that back down, you know, the front of the body, through the face and through, you know, all the front chakras, whatever you want to call that, you know, brow chakra and throat and solar plexus and that. But I usually just focus on bringing with the breath down to the solar plexus, breathing in again, building it, and then shooting it down to the dantian. And then that's kind of a complete circuit, right? And so when we start doing that and getting that so it's in motion, right? So that's our cultivation practice. Well, then that occupies part of the mind, and it allows the other part of the mind to, you know, accept information or visions or downloads, you know, of a spiritual nature. And so that's where I started, you know, experimenting over the years and finding ways to basically punch through. And what I mean by punch through is there seems to be like a barrier, you know, for us to actually kind of punch through to allow spirit to enter, right? And so what would happen is I would get in my meditation, and I'd start working on this microcosmic circuit or orbit of energy work, and I would get to this point where I'd be concentrating on the crown chakra, and I got to this idea that there is actually like a doorway or a gateway that has to open. And I kind of almost imagined that it was kind of above me, like so many feet above me, that when I was working with the crown chakra, that I was actually kind of sending energy out to embrace the divine, right? And so it was kind of like a handshake or like an offer where I'm sending energy upward and outward. And I feel that there was something kind of like a doorway there with beings on the other side. And so when I put that energy out, I would kind of prepare my body, and for some reason, I don't know if it's my spine or my particular, the way my body is, but I'd actually have to turn slightly and kind of open my spine a little bit differently. And what would happen is this doorway up above me would actually open up, and this white light would come down, and it was more than just light shining down on me, but it was almost like a liquid light. Like if you can imagine glowing milk, right? Kind of thick, almost kind of viscous, and it would come down and it would enter into my crown chakra, and my body would just feel empty, like I was just this empty vessel. And so this milky white light would come down, and it would flow all the way down to the base of my spine. We'd have our legs crossed, and so it would kind of splash in a way, you know, when it would hit the bottom, and it would fill my legs, and then it would start rising as it was filling me up, and it would totally just fill me up. And so like I said, I'd have to kind of almost turn and open my spine to allow that to happen. And I would just feel this, you know, this feeling of awe and just warmth and just intense light, love, whatever you want to call that warm, just peaceful feeling. And it would totally just fill my body to the point that, like, I almost couldn't hold anymore, right? And so then I would take that and I would breathe that in and start moving that, churning that into this microcosmic orbit as well. So I was adding it to my own chi flow. So then at that point, instead of just my own chi that I was kind of moving around, which was really kind of like a light oil or something, or like just a really thin like liquid, I was getting this thick energy that I could actually move around, you know. That was a lot more powerful and intense, right? And so I spent, you know, many years just kind of working with that, with opening up. I would get into, you know, the breathing and the relaxation first. I'd start the, you know, at the Dantian, I'd start building the chi. I would start moving it, getting it with each breath into the circuit. And so it's one breath in, the Dantian, one breath out, shoots down the spine, comes up the backside, another breath in. You're at the solar plexus, but in the back, right? Kind of underneath the shoulder blades, right in between them. Breathing in, building that energy, breathing out, letting it shoot up the back to the crown. Breathing in, pulling energy in from spirit and from the air in the crown area, shooting that with the breath out, back down to the solar plexus again, breathing, consolidating it, breathing everything in the solar plexus and shooting that back down to the Dantian. And of course, with the Dantian, when you're breathing that in, you're kind of pulling energy from the ground through your legs and through the perineum up to the Dantian. So you're breathing in and bringing in earth energy that's kind of cool at the bottom, and then shooting that down to the base of the spine, then back up, and then it gets kind of lukewarm at the solar plexus and in the back, right? And then you shoot it up higher, and it gets a little bit hotter, and it's up here at the crown, and then at the crown, that's where you're pulling in the energy from heaven, right? Or from this gateway, from this doorway that's opened up, and we bring that energy in. And then, of course, then that flows down through the front of the face, and with the breath out. So everything is always moving on the breath out. The mind is moving with the breath, and imagining that it's almost like you have your presence. Your presence is moving with your mind, and then the chi follows that, or the heaven chi follows that. And then as you focus on a particular point, then that's where your presence is, you know, that part of the mind. And then you're breathing in and you're pulling chi in, and you know, you can actually pull chi in and then condense it with a breath out and spin it and build it. And you can do that for a number of breaths, and then you can move it. You can actually use 2 or 3 breaths just to move from one point to the next. But after a while, you'll get used to relaxing and allowing that energy to move from one point to the next, and you'll feel it move. And it almost feels like a fullness, and then it will move, and you'll feel that fullness move, and it will become full in the next point, and it will start to become empty at the point where it left, right? So then that's where you know that you're moving it, right? And then as you get better at the 4th cycle of breathing, so it's basically you know, the one breath from the dantian down and then back up to the middle of the back. That's one breath. Second breath is from the back up to the crown, and then the third breath from the crown, you know, in and out from the crown to the solar plexus, and then the last breath is from the solar plexus back down to the dantian, right? So it's a circuit of 4 breaths that is basically, you know, rotating or flowing that energy in the microcosmic orbit. And of course, each time that it comes up to the crown, then you can add energy from the divine. You can open up that doorway, that gateway, and allow that energy to flow through. And of course, after like half an hour of this, you know, you're really building a lot of chi. And then at the end of your meditation, then you need to bring everything. You need to do, you know, like maybe 5 or 6 of these circuits where you breathe and you bring it back down to the dantian, and you let it stay there into the dantian. Or you can even ground it more and push it down through your legs and back down into the ground. Because we don't need all that extra excess chi. You know, we need it for the purification of our body and our multi-bodies. You know, and bringing that energy down, and it's kind of cleansing us. But we don't need to bring all this hot chi up and then leave it up here. So we have to bring it back down to the dantian, and we have to ground it. So we'll spend so many circuits where we'll gather the chi that's still left, that's in the upper part of the body, that we brought up, that we've really intensified, right? And we bring that back down, and we kind of lay that to rest at the end of our meditation. And it's always good to thank spirits, or to do like a little thank you prayer, or a little ceremony, if you want to call it, at the end of your meditation. Again, thanks for joining me for this episode, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.